friends. And next, we're talking about a trial that I have just cannot stop watching. It's made headlines for 21 months. It is the trial of Jeffrey Lamar Williams, known to his millions of fans as Young Thug, and the 27 others affiliated with his YSL record label. It is, by the way, the longest in Georgia history, this trial. Just 2 weeks ago, after 906 days behind bars, the Atlanta rap superstar was freed for time served after pleading guilty to gang, drug, and gun charges. His case was a social media obsession worldwide. We saw headlines declaring hip-hop itself was on trial, with prosecutors using Young Thug's own lyrics against him in court. Take a look. Grammy Award-winning artist Young Thug has been called the most influential rapper of the 21st century with his unconventional sounds and distinctive lyrics. Born Jeffrey Williams, he's held 60 spots on the Billboard 100 with his last 2 albums debuting at the top of the charts, solidifying Young Thug as a growing force in hip-hop. But in 2022, Williams was arrested, accused of being the leader of a murderous street gang. He faced 8 felony charges as the chief defendant in a sprawling racketeering case with 27 others initially charged. Live streams of the trial attracted millions of obsessed viewers around the world. Williams was facing life in prison if convicted. His requests for a mistrial were denied. The trial became a lightning rod over free speech rights when prosecutors alleged Williams ran a violent street gang under the guise of his record label, and his own rap lyrics were evidence that he committed crimes. Williams and his attorneys argued that his lyrics were creative expression protected under the First Amendment, saying that linking his words to alleged crimes during trial was racist and discriminatory. Joining us now, the host of the award-winning podcast, King Slime, the prosecution of Young Thug and YSL, Christina Lee, and author of Rap on Trial, Race, Lyrics, and Guilt in America, Erik Nielson. Welcome them to the TAM fam. Thank you for joining us. Christina, I think people still miss the point here of why this is such an important trial. What do you see as the thing you want people to understand with the podcast?
I think the biggest thing is that this trial is concerning people's freedom of speech, honestly, because so much of what concerned this case was about how Young Thug was expressing himself by way of songs, by way of lyrics. And even in the state of Georgia, those lyrics don't have to be overt, like confessions that you might expect. I think what we often saw was that lyrics were being interpreted or brought in to basically connote a criminal mindset, basically showing that somebody had the propensity to maybe commit a crime, which is such broad criteria. But I think it was very alarming considering that it is so limited to hip hop.
And Erik, that's the thing you talk a lot about. I think you were called to testify at one point, right? Because it is, someone will take a lyric, leave it subject to interpretation, and then say, you thought it, so that must mean you did it because you wrote it and you should go to jail.
Right. Yeah, well, and probably worth noting, about half of the lyrics they cited weren't even uttered by Young Thug. Some of the lyrics they cited weren't even written by him. And yes, but this is a very common practice where police and prosecutors, in the interest of obtaining a conviction, they will go into an artist's background, go through lyrics, and then represent those lyrics as either confessions to a crime or as evidence of motive or intent with respect to a crime. It's very concerning.
Christina, with this, I mean, the jury selection alone took, what, like 10 months?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I'm just seeing those 10 months of my life flash before my eyes. But yeah, it did take 10 months.
Which is unprecedented in so many ways. What did you glean from the length of time it just took to get jurors?
Well, I think already at that point, people were expecting that it was going to take months just to like see the case through. We're talking, 26, 27 co-defendants, 56 counts total. And so by that point, you guys, I had just started seeing a new gynecologist, and she was one of the people that was being called for jury selection, but she was like, at $25 a day, I literally cannot afford it or my business will have to shut down. And then she laid me down on the bench. But that was basically...
What did you just say?
It was a really interesting appointment. But yeah, I mean, that is the mentality that so many people took onto this case, which is why it took so long to just be able to find a jury. I got called in for jury selection for completely unrelated case just a couple months prior. And even for just that one day, I was behind on work for the entire week. So I could not imagine what that was like.
Coming up, we're going to dig more into the laws that people are advocating to make sure another trial like was witnessed in Georgia won't ever happen again. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about the Jeffrey Lamar Williams trial, known as Young Thug to his fans in the hip-hop world. We're still with music journalist Christina Lee and hip-hop historian Erik Nielson. Erik, going back to the freedom of speech thing, what people don't know, and I'll say, I've been working on this project about King Von. I think he's one of the most compelling individuals in recent hip-hop memory. People are stunned when they hear how I go down the rabbit hole. And sometimes the rabbit hole can be misleading, especially with these lyrics. What can be done now?
Well, I mean, there are a couple things that we can do. I mean, the first is if the lyrics are presented as evidence in a trial, say, bring in somebody who can explain to a jury that these are not meant to be taken literally, that these are not autobiographical confessions.
So
Give
rap
some
music
context.
on trial bill, what is that?
So that's a bill that we're trying to, it's been introduced at the federal level and at a number of state levels, including here in New York. Thank you. And the goal is really to limit the use of artistic expression as evidence in criminal cases. It's not an outright ban, but it puts the onus on prosecutors to demonstrate that they need this evidence rather than using this evidence to potentially prejudice a jury.
Yeah. And Christina, as a journalist,
Thank you. Thank you.
as a journalist, I mean, people think of this as culture, and it is, but it is also, again, another opportunity for those who wish to use race, to use what they don't understand, to demonize. So in the case of Jeffrey, Young Thug, you're a juror, somebody's come in and say, oh, this is Young Thug, they're instantly swayed. We know that. So this is a deeper conversation again about how the judicial system treats young black men.
Yes.
And there's no secret about that.
I mean, this is even true based on, even though Young Thug is technically a freed man for having taken the plea deal.
His terms of probation are stunning.
They're stunning. I think even in the conversations leading up to the terms of the plea deal, though, Tamron, it was that there was this whole back and forth where Young Thug basically had to apologize for being a hip hop artist. He was like, look, I understand that this music can have a negative influence on my community. And the judge, Paige Whitaker, took him at his word and said, you know what, I understand that while music should be, it's like pro wrestling where the lines between fact and fiction are blurred, this still has consequences. And so watching that kind of unfold, it still felt like, to an extent, like rap was still being criminalized because, you know, that had larger implications.
We're going to talk more about this in future shows. I think what you're doing is brilliant. Erik, thank you. Christina, thank you.